Frida, a manicurist, happened to see a video where billionaire Slater King apologizes for his past misconduct. He has bought an island and is now trying to lead a simple and virtuous life. Today, Slater is organizing a charity banquet, and Frida, along with her friend Jess, is supposed to act as a waitress. A year ago, she had a chance to talk to the billionaire. Obsessed with Slater, she and her friend decide to go on an adventure. They change into evening gowns and pose as guests. Frida, however, isn't very graceful on heels. She heads towards Slater but trips, accidentally knocking down a waiter. Nevertheless, this mishap allows her to catch the billionaire's attention, and he helps the clumsy guest back on her feet. Slater is then distracted by his psychotherapist, Dr. Stein. The businessman introduces the girls to his friends, many of whom are also celebrities and wealthy individuals. Frida is having a great time with the lively crowd, and Slater can't take his eyes off her. Then, his assistant reminds him it's time to fly to the island. Neither of them wants to part, so Slater unexpectedly invites Frida and Jess to fly with him. The entire company departs by plane, heading for a stay at a luxurious villa. His assistant Stacy takes everyone's phones, and Slater personally escorts Frida to her room. On the sink, she finds a bottle of Desiderio perfume and uses it. She finds an old lip gloss in a drawer and throws it in the trash. An elderly woman enters the room and, for some reason, calls Frida Red Rabbit. Identical outfits were prepared for all the women in their exact sizes. People keep borrowing Frida's lighter, and Slater always holds his e-cigarette. Sarah, who was on a survival reality show, climbs a palm tree. She came to the island with Cody but constantly flirts with the billionaire. Yet Frida once again captures his attention, although she nearly chokes on a berry. It turns out that the perfume is made from Desiderio flowers that grow only on this island. A strange woman who works on the island is engaged in catching snakes. Stacy runs past them, accidentally dropping a bunch of red gift bags. The evening gowns for the women all turn out to be identical for some reason. Cody, a famous chef, prepares a gourmet dish, though chubby Tom only eats eggs to lose weight, and Slater refuses to eat red meat. Clumsy Frida spills red wine on her dress. When Vic speaks, everyone notices that he's missing his pinky finger. Dinner ends, and the wealthy guests lounge on the lawn while security guard Stan keeps an eye on things. As Frida goes to bed, she notices that the stain on her dress has somehow disappeared. She can't stop thinking about the strange woman who collects snakes. The following days blend together. During the day, the group relaxes by the pool or in the sauna, and at night, they lose their sense of reality. They constantly eat, drink, and don't think about the real world at all. How much time has passed is unknown. Every day, Frida perfumes herself with Desiderio. One day, Slater asks her about the scar on her temple, but she doesn't remember where it came from. They like each other, and Frida wouldn't mind if Slater kissed her. But suddenly he says he has to sleep since he has a therapy session the next day. Frida is left with his vape. In the morning, she notices dirt under her nails from somewhere. Frida goes to Slater's room to return his vape, and then Dr. Stein enters. The psychotherapist tenses up strangely when Frida says she remembers him. Her phone is returned, and a gift is placed in one of the red bags. Jess finally finds her lighter again, but Cody has lost his special Japanese knife and can't find it anywhere. Frida spends most of her time with Slater. Meanwhile, Jess gradually becomes paranoid. In the evening, someone takes her lighter again, and she decides to sign it. That night was like any other. Everyone drank and danced until a scream suddenly echoed. Jess had been bitten by a snake. Slater killed the snake, and Vic took a picture of it. Jess immediately wanted to go home. She was scared to stay on the island. Everyone else continued partying, and Jess got a nosebleed. The next morning started as usual for Frida, but she noticed a red bag on the ground and went into a bungalow. Inside, she saw shelves filled with dozens of identical bags. In another room, there was an older woman who offered Frida a drink from a bottle containing a green liquid, which Frida later realized was a disgusting concoction with snake venom. Terrified, she ran outside. Meanwhile, Cody was chasing chickens that had escaped their coop. In the evening, all the women were running somewhere but suddenly stopped, wondering why they had been running in the first place. Frida dreamed of her friend suggesting they hide a knife. Once again, dirt appeared under her nails. All the girls looked tired and disheveled, Lucas had a black eye, and Sarah had a scratch on her arm. The men went fishing while the women stayed by the pool to relax. After a day, Frida suddenly remembered Jess. No one else remembered Jess, and her room had now been turned into a storage room. Panic set in for Frida, and she hid a mirror behind which Cody's missing knife was hidden. Sarah came to see her, and Frida almost believed Jess had actually existed. The woman had managed to sign her lighter. Sarah mentioned that she only met Cody the night before the banquet, and none of the other girls knew anyone else. Somehow they had been made to forget everything, but how exactly? All the red bags contained bottles of perfume. What had they done with them before erasing their memories? Perhaps the snake venom awakens memories. Sarah immediately drank from the bottle. Now they needed to convince Heather and Camilla to drink the horrible liquid, which was easy since the last few days had made them used to drinking anything handed to them. Even the assistant, Stacy, didn't hesitate to drink. While the men were out fishing, Frida decided to try retrieving her phone. She had seen where Stacy hid them. Suddenly, Sarah's nose began to bleed, and her memories started flooding back, shocking her. When Cody tried to scare her, she elbowed him in response. Frida managed to break the lock and open the cabinet, but unfortunately, there was no network on the island. Just then, Sarah screamed, warning Frida that Slater was coming. Among the belongings, she found a pile of photographs showing young girls and old people with red bags. Frida kept a few photos for herself. She hid under a table and remained unnoticed, but then her nose began to bleed too. She remembered how they, along with the other girls, had been tied up and thrown to the ground, and how Slater had broken her friend's neck because she hadn't forgotten anything after the snake bite. Frida had to return to the group and pretend that nothing had happened, just as Sarah was doing. Both of them barely held back their tears. Soon, Heather and Camilla's memories should return. But for now, they had to act as if everything was normal. During dinner, Frida recalled another evening. Each man had chosen a victim and done as he pleased. Only Lucas had refused to participate, earning himself a black eye. Dr. Stein's attention was drawn to Frida. After all, to them, the girls were just meat. Lucas, by the way, was also losing his memory each night. Sarah was barely holding up under the strain. Frida shuddered when the murderer took her hand. Together with Sarah, they claimed they wanted to dance, managing to grab a few small items for self-defense. For instance, Sarah took a corkscrew and hid it in a flower bed. Everyone joined the dance. Camilla went to the bar to pour herself a drink and suddenly remembered everything. She was furious and, seeing an ice pick nearby, plunged it into Tom. Sarah finally took her revenge on Cody, stabbing his hand with the corkscrew. Meanwhile, Heather chased after Vic, the photographer. They often played chess, and she hit him with a chessboard. But just then, the security guard, Stan, a former Marine, took her down. Afterward, he chased Frida, who tried to hide in the forest. But the professional caught up with her quickly and was about to finish her when Sarah approached him from behind with a large rock. Though Vic wasn't dead, he was left paralyzed, and Lucas still didn't understand what was happening. Camilla lay bound on the ground. He ordered Cody to deal with the others. Blood began to trickle from Stacy, the assistant's nose as well, but she didn't seem to care. Stacy attacked Frida, but Frida managed to take her down. Lucas was worried that he had done something terrible as well. In reality, he hadn't done anything at all. He hadn't even tried to help the girls. Slater believed that there was a special place in hell for people like him. Frida found a photograph of herself with long hair and red rabbits on her nails. She had been here before. She knocked on Slater's door, pretending she needed help. Lucas decided that he would finally assist her and ran to the door, but he was immediately shot by Sarah. Slater dragged Frida into the house. She hit him with a statue, but he knocked it away and slammed her head into the floor. The lip gloss in the drawer was hers. The scar on her temple was from when she had been hit against a rock a year ago. Horrible things had been done to her here, but she had forgotten everything. By the way, it was also Frida who had bitten off Vic's pinky finger. She felt around for a shard of glass and began to cut the rope with which Slater had tied her. The man admitted that he had thought about forgetfulness, comparing himself to his sister. She still went to therapists because of what their relative had done to them in childhood, while he, having no memories, calmly communicated with him. Sarah had used all her bullets, and Slater realized this. He put the vape on the table and ran after her, caught up, tied her up, and threw her on the floor. Frida freed herself, grabbed a knife, but Slater easily took it from her. He picked up the vape but suddenly stopped, not understanding why there were so many injured and dead people around. Slater accidentally knocked over some candles, starting a fire in the house. It was Frida who had filled the vape with perfume, and Slater instantly forgot everything that had happened. He stumbled, hit his head on the table, and lost consciousness. The house burned to the ground, and Frida saved her new friend Sarah and Slater because she had certain plans for him. Later, Slater hosted another banquet, but now he seemed timid and confused. Frida continuously wiped his memory, forcing him to be submissive and eat red meat. Furthermore, she married him and made him appoint her as the CEO of his company.